Hello, and welcome to a wake-up call that is meant to turn your attention to what is hidden in plain sight all the time within your everyday experiences. To understand the content of this video, it is crucial that you observe your own experiences and the inner state from which you approach them, the thought patterns that become activated in the situations you find yourself in, and the emotional states that drive your thoughts and actions. To name a few things, and most importantly of all in this context, you realize how conscious you really are of these inner states, your responses to them, and their connection to your experiences in the so-called physical reality. In other words, whether you react or respond to outer or inner stimuli. This is crucial to understand, as the state of sleep implies that we are normally not as aware of these processes as it may appear at first glance. That is what this state is called within the fourth way tradition. The state of sleep describes a condition in which one is largely unconscious of oneself and one's actions, even while physically awake. It suggests that most of us go through life in a kind of waking slumber, driven by automatic responses, habitual thoughts, and emotional reactions without conscious awareness or control over our inner states. This concept challenges the assumption that being physically awake means we are truly awake in a broader sense. Instead, the fourth way posits that real wakefulness involves a state of conscious awareness that is rare and requires dedicated inner work to achieve. You are asked to keep in mind that we are talking about two very distinct states, the state of sleep and the state of true wakefulness. If you observe yourself and analyze your experience from this perspective, this is something that you will come to know for yourself, and you will begin to discern the two states from each other. As stated in the beginning, in the fourth way, it is proposed that human beings are generally governed by automatic responses to internal and external stimuli rather than by intentional, self-aware actions. When we operate in this sleep state, we are mostly reactive, with our thoughts and emotions shaped by ingrained patterns of behavior, societal influences, and conditioning. This unconscious mode of being restricts our potential, as our actions are not self-directed, but rather determined by mental and emotional habits that we do not have any real control over as long as we are asleep. People often identify entirely with their thoughts, emotions, and sensations, believing that these transient experiences make up the whole self. Yet, in doing so, they remain unaware of a deeper level of being that could potentially observe these inner events rather than simply be swept along by them. This state of identification contributes to the illusion of wakefulness. In light of this, it's easy to understand how we can believe that we are making conscious choices when, in reality, we are often just acting out learned responses and automatic behavioral patterns accumulated and practiced unconsciously over years and decades. The more you practice something, the more hardwired it becomes. A crucial aspect of this sleep state is the loss of inner connection and the lack of self-observation. Loss of inner connection fosters identification with the surface-level mind and emotions, which are typically influenced by the aforementioned ingrained habits and societal conditioning rather than authentic inner guidance. This is, in other words, about the connection with our essence, rather than with our acquired ego persona, and there will be a whole video on the topic soon, as this requires an explanation that is beyond the scope of this video. What is important to keep in mind here is that when we lose this inner connection, we become vulnerable to the sleep state, where self-awareness is minimal and our sense of identity is fragmented across various roles, reactions, and desires, while giving off the appearance of a coherent personality. Without an active link to our inner self, our experiences and choices lack depth and coherence, making us feel as though we're at the mercy of external forces rather than agents of our own lives, and as if our actions and interactions come from a shallow, inauthentic place. In other words, we are not really awake to what is going on in the present moment. Furthermore, without the ability to observe oneself objectively, one cannot see the mechanical nature of one's actions, nor can one break free from the cycle of automatic responses. There should, in this context, also be mentioned that this is not about forcing change, but rather about becoming aware of what is going on and setting the intention of breaking patterns when they are discovered. This does require one to break through the discomfort of novelty and the fear of getting out of one's comfort zone, but it's not about strain or effort in the normal sense. What you will realize as you wake up more and more is that awareness is the real key to change, which begins by just this: directing focus toward what is going on the inside and what is happening right in front of you in the present moment, rather than being lost in the past and the future and useless fantasies about this or that, which are all parts of the state of sleep. Thus, Gurdjieff and later fourth way teachers like P.D. Ouspensky emphasize self-observation as a foundational practice in the journey toward real wakefulness. Through self-observation, one learns to recognize when one is acting or thinking mechanically, gaining the ability to see thoughts and emotions as objects of study rather than being absorbed by them. This de-identification with the habitual thoughts and emotions and subsequent recognition of yourself as the infinite, unchangeable consciousness that observes all this activity will help you break free from your mechanicalness. You will realize that since there is none of this mechanicalness that is actually you, you neither need to hold on to it nor defend it. The fourth way also teaches that this state of sleep is universal, affecting nearly everyone, regardless of their level of intelligence or social status. It holds that all people are born into this sleep state and that society's structures, its systems of education, culture, and work, often reinforce it. Instead of fostering conscious awareness, these systems tend to condition people to behave in certain ways, prioritizing efficiency and conformity over genuine self-awareness. In this context, it could be interesting to ponder why we learn so many things in school that we never have any use for, while we are not taught mindfulness, self-awareness, self-discipline, to regulate emotions, release tensions in the body, or handle our finances properly, just to name a few skills that would be useful to literally everyone. Another key concept related to this state of sleep is that of buffers. We have a whole video about the topic, and there will be a link to it at the end screen. Buffers refer to psychological mechanisms that shield us from self-awareness, enabling us to avoid confronting uncomfortable truths about ourselves. These buffers prevent us from recognizing our contradictions, allowing us to hold conflicting beliefs or act in ways that are inconsistent with our values without feeling any cognitive dissonance. By keeping such realizations out of conscious awareness, buffers help maintain the illusion of coherence, yet they also keep us trapped in a superficial level of experience. Since the sleep state is deeply ingrained and constantly reinforced by habits and societal influences, efforts to awaken must be consistent and intentional. Only through disciplined practice and continuous self-application can one begin to transcend the mechanical patterns that constitute the sleep state. If you observe yourself, you will notice how you slip in and out of awareness all the time, usually with just short moments of clarity. We may, in an instant, have an acute awareness of being here and now, of what we are thinking and feeling, how our body feels, and so on. But the next moment, we are back in our habitual thoughts, while only being vaguely aware of what is going on while the body is engaged in some repetitive task, or wanders more or less awkwardly towards some vague goal. We're physically present, but mentally elsewhere, our minds occupied with past concerns or future worries. This fragmented attention keeps us from staying aware of our immediate experience. This is the state of sleep. Emotions also play a significant role in this cycle. When we experience strong emotions like stress, frustration, or excitement, our attention is absorbed by these feelings, pulling us out of broader self-awareness and anchoring us in a single, intense focus that we have no personal control over as long as we are not aware of what is going on. It is rather the situation and prior conditioning that determine our response to the situation. Similarly, when faced with challenging or uncomfortable moments, the mind's defense mechanism is often to escape into thoughts or distractions rather than remain fully present. This is the state of sleep. In summary, this concept serves as both a diagnosis and a challenge. It highlights the limitations of ordinary awareness and encourages a path of self-transformation through heightened awareness, self-observation, and presence. This journey is not about achieving a fixed state of wakefulness, as the sleep state is ever present and constantly resurfacing. Instead, it is about cultivating the capacity to observe oneself impartially and to act from a place of conscious choice rather than from the automatic patterns that dominate the sleep state. In the fourth way, the state of sleep describes our tendency to live unconsciously, driven by ingrained patterns and reactions rather than conscious choice. This sleep state keeps us from self-awareness, making us reactive and bound to mental and emotional habits. In this view, genuine wakefulness isn't just physical. It requires actively working to observe oneself, noticing automatic behaviors and thoughts without becoming identified with them. To break free from this state, the cornerstone is self-observation. By simply shedding light on what is going on in the present moment, what you are thinking, feeling, and doing, instead of allowing these things to run on autopilot, you begin to shift away from the state of sleep. And the more you practice, the more you will catch yourself slipping back into automatic thoughts and behaviors. It is about training your brain to function in a manner that you were previously unaware of. By cultivating awareness and reducing mechanical behaviors, we gradually open up to a life of intentionality and, in the process, find a deeper level of freedom and presence in our everyday lives. The true wakeful state is actually easier, more natural, and more free-flowing than the state of sleep. It's just that we've been practicing being asleep for such a long time, and it therefore takes time to learn to approach your inner and outer life from this expanded awareness. But as you wake up more and more, you will find that the moments of clarity become more and more frequent, and that you can stay in them for longer and longer times. Finally, you will feel a gravitational pull towards this higher state. You will then more and more relax into it until you can let go completely and float down the stream. You've now reached the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for your time.